Hey everybody, it's William. I just wanted to apologize in advance for the lower quality of this particular episode of the Final Stage podcast. Long story short, I messed up the settings of my microphone when we're recording, and because Arsenette and I are recording on the same line, me fixing the audio was a bit of a hassle, and unfortunately it's not completely perfect. So I did manage to salvage most of it, but it's not completely great. But it's very much still listenable, so apologies in advance, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Final Stage Podcast. The podcast where we talk about the hottest show of the season. That's right, everyone. I am talking about BattleBots. Forget about any of the other stuff we don't talk about. Let's talk about BattleBots instead, because holy crap, I've been waiting 13 years for this show to come back, and it is so good. They actually acknowledge that the old show exists. I mean, granted, it's the same production company, so that makes sense, but oh my god, so many of the old builders are back, and robots, and it's so good. Oh my god, why is this so good? I'm so happy. Okay, now that I got that out of my
people
system.
What I always deal with. This is awesome.
Seriously,
Hello,
though,
William.
Seriously, though, BattleBots is great. You should watch it. Hi, Arsenette.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing good.
I'm glad you like that one.
That was a good show. I used to watch it when it was
back, and it's good. I'm so happy. Anyway.
Those two sentences usually don't go well together. It's back and it's good.
Look.
Usually it's like, oh god, what did they do to that now?
No, it's basically it's only been modernized production-wise. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. The only difference is that it's only one weight division because it's only a 6-episode run, which is understandable. But like in terms of like how they present the show and like everything else, it's pretty much like the same. And I'm happy with it because it's really enjoyable to watch. So.
Oh, good transition. Sasuke Rising. Sasuke's back, and it's good.
Yeah. So Sasuke 31 happened, and to say that this was a good tournament would be, I think, a little bit of an understatement. You might say
I spent a month and a half biting my lip. I should get a cookie.
Let's put it this way. Like, remember when you said that this might have been like the best Sasuke tournament at the very least in a while?
Yes.
So, as someone who had just recently watched it, along with a lot of other people, I have to say, you're pretty much on the money with that one.
Yeah. I put it top 3, but completely biased number 1.
Yeah,
because I mean it's different when you're there, and of course for me I have a lot of my own personal emotion in it because when you see that live, it's unfreaking believable, just in general. And I'm sure any of the AW competitors have gone over there all said the same thing. It's different when you're there. And so, but just in general, the highs and the lows, and I think I mentioned this before, is that there was enough, oh my god, to, oh my god, and to, just a lot of the ups and the downs, like some things that you had no idea were going to happen to, it was awesome. So I had a couple of gripes with the broadcast, but it's minor compared to the whole thing.
I can figure out one gripe you had, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So we should probably let people know that this conversation pretty much is going to be exclusively about Sasuke 31, and they should expect spoilers, like heavy spoilers. As in, if you haven't watched Sasuke 31 yet, you should stop listening to this podcast and go watch Sasuke 31 because, spoiler, it's really good. And you should watch it.
I've been waiting 2 freaking months to be able to speak about this. Yeah. No one's gonna stop me. Off of NDA.
Yeah, actually, and you know what? Here's a good example of how much spoiling we're going to be doing during this podcast. Hey, Arsenette.
Yes.
Now, you remember? I don't remember if we said this on the podcast, but do you remember a conversation we had once in which I told you before you left for Japan? Hey, wouldn't it be really cool if you got to see a Kazan Seiha in person?
Yes, I remember that conversation.
So you're welcome.
You're quite no problem.
Because apparently I reverse jinxed you. Or
It
whatever.
was hilarious because the word is not yelled at, but it was a I can't believe you came your only tournament and you got a freaking Kansenseha. I mean, seriously, the look you have. I cannot believe that came from someone very high up in TBS. It was the no. You don't understand. I've seen 23 straight tournaments. I've only seen 3 people do it. And sometimes some tournaments didn't go all so hot and whatever. You came your only time and voila, you get the best tournament that's ever been made. Again, it wasn't without controversy, but then again, no Sasuke has been without controversy. So whether people knew it or not, there's never been a perfect tournament. And this was not, well, anyway. Again, we'll talk about that. So, before I forget, since it's been a month since we've done our podcast, and I had to write all this stuff down because this entire month has been like chaos for me.
Oh yeah, I've already forgotten about this subject.
Yeah, I did AnimeNext like maybe what was it, like a week or two after we did the last podcast.
It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
After we recorded it.
Yeah, and it went well. Very different when you do it at night. You just get a completely different crowd. I think the presentation went better. I'm still in the situation where I'm very much into the minutia. So here I am giving a lot of, and I didn't get the glass eyes. I just had the people were tired because it was almost 10 o'clock at night. So. So between that and some people dropped out because they were just going to go to the rave. But that's, in fact, I had a couple people that had came up to me afterwards that they were in last year's and they enjoyed this year's. So yay, I'm happy. Yeah, I'll eventually get that up. I haven't been feeling well the last week or so, which is why also my blogs are also late, and I still haven't mailed out my Indiegogo backer kit things. Yeah, I'm a bit behind. I'm sorry. I'll mention this only once and I'll never mention it again. I get cluster headaches. And when cluster headaches happen, the nickname that is called for these headaches are suicides. They're extremely intense. There's nothing I can take for it. There's no medication. There's no treatment. It's just something that I permanently live with. And it comes in stages. Usually comes maybe 1 or 2 weeks, usually around the same time. And I'm out of commission. And even after it happens, I get like this huge residual headache. So I'm kind of in the tail end of a lull of one of them right now. So as I feel a little bit better, I'll pick up the pace and try to catch up where I am. But that's what happened. So thank you for all the people in Twitter that've been sending me a lot of, good luck messages and, hang in there. And thank you. I hope I feel better soon. So that's it. And that's the only time I ever bring that up.
All right, then. So
Sasuke 31. Oh my God, where do I start? Oh my God, where do I start?
Well, let's start with the beginning of the show. So,
yes.
Something a little bit different, I felt like, is that they immediately started with number 1. No.
Yeah, there was, in fact...
There was no intro, there was no hello. It's like, all right, now time for number 1.
I was watching it with Jean on Skype and Yube on chat. And I just prefer it that way, just because I'm not splitting my attention too much. Because if I watch chat, like regular SMF chat, I'd be too overwhelmed. And between that, I was looking at very specific things, and they're like, "Wait, did they totally screw up that intro?" Because all of a sudden the intro like randomly came in after the second one or something like that.
It was
third. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I haven't even touched the blog yet, so I don't have that fresh in my mind because I used to go frame by frame. They had a couple of things that were all tied to it, and I always see it as one big blob. Before Navi, we had a Nico Nico broadcast, which I did not expect. They talked about obstacles, and they showed the auditions. and which I thought was actually pretty interesting. That was on the 28th of June. And I have that. I just put that at the end of Navi, so people that are interested in reading up on it, I have at least a couple of screenshots on that. And it was interesting because I'm seeing it from the perspective of I know who these people are, because they showed the auditions of every single person that came from the audition process, and they told them the number which one they were going to be. So, like they had, Okada was 76, so they showed Okada's interview and how things went and whatever. But they had the actual number and they ran it in order. So I just thought that was actually cool. It was a little on the boring side, but then again, I'm happy that they did it. They really did a lot of social media this time, which I thank them for, and it actually paid in dividends. They also had a Nico Nico during the broadcast, which I saw. So that's why I was trying to limit how much I was watching, because they started the Nico Nico broadcast. It was similar to what it was last year, where you had 4 or 5 competitors and the director and the producer of the show. All there watching the broadcast. You didn't see the broadcast, you just saw them looking like below the camera, because they didn't want that running. It ran at the same time as Japanese television, so I got to see that. I like seeing it even if I can't understand. I know some words in Japanese, so I get a general gist, and I had 2 people that were translating for me if there was anything particularly interesting. So I like that, because the benefit of seeing something like that is that for ratings wise, when something that big airs on Nico Nico, it flashes on the top of the screen, and so people can see what are the things that are trending now, and then it's on TV, and then that demographic turns on the television, and then people get to see it. They also did Twitter. And Twitter, for the very first time, they trended worldwide. Never happened before.
In fact, I like to read out some of the tweets that people are making.
That was epic.
Shh. For the people who don't know, let me read some of my favorite Sasuke tweets. Why is Sasuke trending? Had a mini heart attack thinking he's dead. OMFG, why is Sasuke trending? Why is Sasuke trending worldwide? Did he betray Konoha again? Maybe he's going to divorce Sakura, lol. Sasuke is trending for some reason. But I don't care. Why? Just go Sasuke. Why is Sasuke trending? Shouldn't it be Itachi Uchiha? I have no idea why Sasuke is trending, but lol. Dedicated to one of my favorite anime characters. I might be taking this trend out of context, but
that was hilarious.
But F it. There is only one Sasuke. And my favorite, that moment when non-Japanese thought that Sasuke trending is about Sasuke from the Naruto series, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, that was actually the best one. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely awesome. That was not the only thing.
There was a lot more tweets like that from non-Japanese people saying, "Oh, hey, Sasuke trending. Oh, wait, it's not that Sasuke."
But the thing that it hit worldwide, I mean, it got to number 2.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, that's an obscene amount of money. Okay, so to give you an idea, there's a research company that Yubei found that only pays attention to Twitter in Japan. And they break it down by actual numbers. They had something like 4.5, 4.6 million people talking about Sasuke now that was just hashtag Sasuke in Japan. There's 4 million people in Japan talking about this. What I like about it is that the ratings in general were okay. We got past the magic number, which is what I was worried about. But Twitter is worldwide, and at least for the purposes of Japan, it's also Japan-wide. Ratings are only taken into account within Tokyo. That's it, which is kind of stupid, but that's how the system has always worked in Japan. The United States does it nationwide. Granted, they're Nielsen houses or whatever, but it's still representative of every state in the union.
Man, and
Japan does not.
Nielsen's kind of backwards.
It is a bit backwards, and there's almost no good way of doing it, but that's an entirely separate show.
Yeah.
But for the purposes of Japan, they, I think ratings in addition to social media is a better gauge because those were all the people outside of the Kanto region that were able to have their voice heard. Now, Sasuke, Suke, was number one in Twitter in Japan for 6 hours straight. The Sasuke in Hiragana was second for 6 hours straight. Actually, close to 6 hours. It was cut in between, and I'll explain why. And then the third one was Sasuke in katakana for, I think, a couple of hours. Then between second and third would flip between character, certain names. And then 2 hours after the tournament ended was Sasuke-kun. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that was number two, and with number one being Sasuke. Sasuke was never unseated from number one in Japan. Now, worldwide, it was in second for about 2 hours. Then it was between third and fourth for, I would say, about 4 hours. And then with even 2 hours after the show ended, it was still in fifth. Which was, we were just stunned. I'm like, the show finished almost 3 hours ago, and it's still trending. And I would check what some of the things were, and they were actually legit things like, oh my god, that's really awesome. And it's like, I expected Morimoto to be trending as well because they were actually physically talking about the competitors or the obstacles or, oh my god, somebody won the final, to all this extra stuff. It was really interesting from that perspective that there was a lot of discussion. And I loved it because, as opposed to, yes, you did have those going, why is Sasuke trending? But there was still a lot more legitimate posts about Sasuke.
No. Absolutely.
Because in order to get worldwide, you have to break something like, I don't know, something like 8 million in order to break into worldwide. That's obscene.
You need a lot.
Yeah. And in Japan, they got 4.5 all by themselves. It's like, you need like 8 million just to get into it. So the fact that it got to number 2 worldwide right in the middle of Sasuke, so it wasn't like, like this freak thing. Because it was there for 2 solid hours. I have a screenshot of it. I'm like, oh, I need a screenshot of this, screenshot of this. It was just, I'd never seen anything like that before. So I think that's how they were able to quickly come to the conclusion that they were going to have Sasuke 32. Yay! That's all I'm worried about. It's like, I don't care what the numbers were. The numbers, they were second in Japan. The race for that night, for anybody that watches ratings wise, the ratings were very, very tight. No one passed 13. And we got, it was like 10.7, but that's an average over the 4 hours. They kept flip-flopping on who was second and third and even first, because it's a 4-hour show. So some of the other ones that they were competing against were like half-hour shows, 1 hour show, 1 hour show. So it would just rotate, but it was still overall, it's still worth it to keep is what their basic thing is, because it's just. There's been a discussion on whether or not this was going to be the last Sasuke, and it darn nearly was. So there's some discussion on how to change the editing of the show, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
So technically this is going forward a little bit, but I do have a question about the ratings for you.
Yeah.
Do you think the success of Kenji Darvish on the first stage helped?
Yes. Yes, it did, actually. There was actually an article that was written that Yube linked, which was interesting because, as far as I'm concerned, it's the first of its kind, or at least first in quite a few years. It was talking about the editing of the show based on the stars' performances, because I think there was a total of 5 to 6 talentos, and only 2 were shown, and there were the 2 that did well. So the argument was, why did you sacrifice everybody else for those 2? Because there were a lot of people sacrificed for that. And one thing that you didn't see, because I know you didn't see the Nico Nico, Inoue had talked about how he did a mistake because he was trying to edit it for ratings, and it backfired.
Oh.
So he cut fan favorites, and trust me, he heard it. He heard it real time because people were livid. Some of these people were cut, and not just the artists, because that was what the article was talking about. It's, fans were furious. How can you cut this person? We were waiting for it, and all of a sudden they weren't even fast forwarded. All this extra stuff, and then the article was like, yeah, but the article even came to a logical conclusion, going, they didn't do good. So I don't expect them to. So it's still a 4-hour show, and somebody won. What do you expect? But I have to still sit down and talk to Inui, and it's probably not going to be a positive conversation because we always end up arguing when it comes to editing, because that's his main focus, and that's what I majored in college. So I have, like, my brain starts thinking in that way. And I know he at least admitted that if he had the opportunity to change it, he would. The focus was in the wrong place. And ultimately, it didn't benefit him anyway because he didn't get that much of a bump in ratings anyway.
Okay.
So, but he got a lot more hate for cutting all those people in the first stage when he really didn't need to. But he did it in the old style, thinking that that's what still worked, and it doesn't still work.
Okay. Because I noted, because like when you watch the show, you saw like the little banner on top for most of stage 1 where it's like, see Kenji Darvish and that guy from ABC's that I don't remember his name of, like, see them run the first stage. And then when Kenji was the one who passed, they're like, see him in the second stage. And like it was very much kind of like, hey, the celebrities, it still has to come, so don't change that channel.
Now, granted, even when they were talking about like all the positives, when they were talking about who were your top people to watch, Darvish was still in the top 3. Oh, yeah. And depending on who you were talking to, he was number 2.
Well, look, I mean, from his I'm not saying that like focusing on Darvish was necessarily a bad thing, because like you watch his run and the people cheering for him on the log rip when he was passing it, like just the volume of that crowd cheer, like it sent a clear sign that people wanted this particular celebrity to succeed.
Now, what I found interesting when you're going back in history, this is the 3rd time he's been on the show.
Correct.
First time, it's like, let's do this, yay! Oh, wait, I fell off of the second obstacle. I think it was second or third. I'm trying to remember. The snail.
Dwelling escargot.
Third?
It depends on which tournament it was.
28. First one.
Second, I believe.
Either way, it was very early.
Yeah. I think
although a lot of people actually did get thrown off that thing a lot, that tournament. But he came back a couple tournaments later and did almost got to the second stage.
Yeah, he fell off the lumberjack climb.
He trained like crazy, even lost something like 15 pounds and just was all muscle. He didn't smile. He didn't do anything. As opposed to last year, he was all, fun and games and whatever. No, and you can feel the tension. He goes, I am gunning for that second stage. Like, there was no joke. He was gunning for that second stage.
And so on a happy...
And
he cleared.
Yeah, and the fact that he actually made it was fantastic. It was just...
And
TBS also needs that as well in order to attract more from, whatever production company, managing company that would be, because that's how they get their celebs. It's not by person individually, it's by whatever the managing company is.
Yeah.
So.
But like the other thing I really liked about when Kenji passed the first stage is that similar to when Wacky first cleared the first stage, there was like, you got this real sense of like genuine happiness that he finally cleared.
Yeah.
It was like this sense of like, yes, they are taking this seriously, and yes, like they do genuinely want to do well. They're not just doing it for TV time sort of stuff.
Yeah. And you can tell the change too, even in Wacky, where he was really gunning for it too.
Oh yeah.
Wacky did it for much, much longer as well, because he also was doing Sportsman.
Right.
And R.I.P. Sportsman. But it was interesting. Even from the ABZZ guy, I just go ABCDFG. He trained like crazy.
Well, yeah, he got pretty close. He got pretty close.
Well, that wall, it took him like 3 weeks to be able to pass.
How? Was that his first time running Sasuke?
Oh, the first time running Sasuke, but he had trained before that because he wasn't going to be humiliated. It was like he didn't want to just show up and be one of those celebs and have that hanging over his head.
Yeah,
because that is still that. I'm kind of happy that they have that healthy fear.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because it's like they want to go and actually succeed. So, at least give it something as opposed to the 5 minutes when, the camera's around. Is it that dude, the whatever, the other guy? Yeah, I forget what his name is, and I'm so sorry, and I'll find that out later.
And Google Translate's not helping me.
He trained like crazy for this, for like an entire month. Like he was in that same place. He kept going up there over and over on his own time. And what I feel bad now is that his fans are now stalking the place as if they're going to somehow see him training there. That's actually somebody's legitimate house, so it's actually starting to become a problem.
Oh boy.
So,
by the way, his name. Oh boy. Okay, his name is Ryoichi Tetsuda.
Tatsuya?
That's maybe. Okay, we should probably. I should probably mention this because I don't think I've ever actually mentioned this on the podcast. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, especially Japanese ones. So please forgive me when we have this discussion and I butcher like everyone's name. Tsukada. Tiscada. Okay then.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Ryoichi is what basically.
Ryoichi.
Yeah. I go with whatever sounds the easiest for me when it starts getting butchered. Like, for example, the unlikely star of the show of the first stage.
The greatest thing
ever.
One of the most pleasant surprises in the history of Sasuke.
There's a lot of stories I can tell you about this. So, first thing out of the gate, there was this guy that had shown up in auditions in Tokyo, right. And you see the audition. He wrote a prepared Japanese paragraph,
right?
Explaining who he is and why I should be on the show, because it's what they call the 30-second appeal. And so that's what you do, and then you sit down and the next person goes and whatever. He only speaks French.
Right.
He does not speak Japanese.
Right. So
you see some guy wearing a wreath and basically nothing else, some sort of, loincloth. He is a Polynesian dancer. He actually does this competitively.
Okay.
And that is why he wears what he wears. Okay. And so,
also apparently he's an Olympian gold medalist, if I understood his...
No, he's not. He's world champion in that.
Okay, he's a world champion, not Olympian. Okay.
Yeah, I look forward to the blog at the end of this month. Yeah. I actually did get an interview of him.
I'm only going by the video, so I saw rowing, I saw a gold medal, I thought, okay. All right,
he also does professional. I think he does competitive volleyball as well. I have to remember what I have my notes sitting on the other side of this desk, and it's filled with stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, look forward to it.
So I have a question. So you're sitting in the audience, and this guy with a wreath on his head is at the starting line, and he starts dancing. And so what are you thinking? Okay,
I was actually there.
Yeah, I know.
And because I wasn't there for all of them, I was only there for 30% of the runs.
He was right before Gene, so I know you were there.
Yeah.
So
Well, he was what, 60?
72.
72. Yeah.
72. I have the list right in front of me.
Big dude, and I happen to like Polynesian dance. I think it's pretty cool. It looks weird out of context.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But he's a big guy. I don't think people really understand how big he is. So I didn't even have enough chance to just straight discount him because I'm an underdog person. If anybody just comes out of like left field and wins this, that'd be like the best day ever. So I'm like, yay, go Polynesian dude. I had no idea. And so I kept thinking like Hawaiian, and I'm like, that's not a Hawaiian dance. Samoan maybe? We're trying to figure out, and it was like French Polynesian. But he right off the bat, and I've been asked this, I don't even know how many times. Yes, what he did with the first obstacle is technically illegal. He was the first one to do it, and then after that, everybody said, no, don't do that. The problem is he went so fast, and they couldn't communicate with him. They weren't about to disqualify him at the end of passing, because they were thinking, okay, he's just going to fail anyway. And he did. He passed the first stage, and we're like, and all of this production just went, oh dear God. Okay, we can't communicate with him because we don't know French, and we didn't actually communicate that you're not allowed to. So after that, all of the other competitors were told, your foot has to be touching the top roller of the descending climb. Oh. You have to have your foot on top of it. He jumped from the top. Oh. Now, granted, I don't think the other guys would have been able to do that jump anyway, as actually it's questionable because everybody that had
been able to do it was Drew.
Yeah, because everybody's foot slipped when they tried jumping from the top of that roller.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that was you should have seen everybody's face was, oh my God, what was that? And he's just like, when you know more about, he had never seen the show. Let me explain it. He's never, in his entire life, seen, not even the day before he went, he's never seen Sasuke. Ever. So, the only reason why he was there is that his totally hot girlfriend, she's totally hot, he's engaged to be married to a Japanese woman, very beautiful Japanese woman that he met through competitive dancing. So I'm
assuming she can speak French.
I don't know. I don't know, and they don't speak English to each other because he doesn't speak English either. So he's learning a little bit of Japanese. So language of love. I don't know.
By the way, we should probably actually say his name.
Yes, that was the whole point of me bringing it up.
Okay.
His first name is Anastase. It's written as Anastase, but he says Anastase.
Okay.
Ragivaru. Now, everybody in Japan calls him Ragival for some reason. But it's Ragivaru. And so I keep screwing up the Ragivaru, so I just call him Anastase. Everybody else calls him Ragivaru. And for everybody in SMF, he is Wreath Man.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was watching the chat with all that, and it's like,
yes,
a lot of people, they were just like, oh, who's this, dancing guy? Because usually in Sasuke, when you see a guy dancing and he's got a thing on his head, you don't expect him to do well because of history.
That is considered a bathroom break before you get to the main set of people.
Here's a comedy relief character.
And he demolished it. He had 35 seconds left.
35 seconds left. There were runs where when you compare them, they get to the warp wall, he's already done with the stage.
Yeah. Now, granted, he had a big jump that cut a lot of his time in the beginning. Yeah. But even if you added 10 seconds to that, he still would have had 25 seconds left.
Yeah.
The only practice he ever had in Sasuke was that he went to Sasuke Park last year.
Yeah.
And he did in fact, he went for an entire month. And so I said, and how much was that? He goes, don't ask me how much money I spent on this park. So it was his girlfriend that brought him over because she's a huge Sasuke fan. And she goes, you got to see this. And so he's like, oh, this looks like fun. And those tickets were like $55 each day. And so he kept going over and over, and he's always had problems with the cliffhanger, but everything else he did fine. So he's like, okay. So when the applications come up, and the girlfriend's like, oh, they're taking applications, go get on the show. And he's like, okay. And then he ends up on the show. It just takes it by storm.
So to be clear, he wasn't aware of the rule because of the whole language barrier thing?
Correct.
Okay.
So that was corrected in the second stage. Second stage, now they're all freaking out because they're like, they can't communicate. They want to make sure that he does not do anything that will cause him to be disqualified, especially since he had the potential of passing this one as well. They're like, we don't know. So this God bless her, this lady from TBS walks over to where the brand new grandstand, because there were grandstands in all 4 stages. And so this is like in Japanese, does anybody speak French? And my friend, who was my invite, actually technically my invite, but ended up on Nagano's list. Long story, I'll spare you. My friend Kathy raises her arm and says it in Japanese. I speak French. She does. She's been speaking French for 20 years. And you should have seen the look on this TBS lady's face, like, oh, thank you. God. So she comes out of the stands, and she is now the official interpreter for Anastase. So they have to make sure your hands have to touch you have to do all of the rungs, you have to do this. Okay, can I do this? No, you can't do that. Yes, you can do this, and whatever. And it's like, okay, and it's like, here's the time. You go from here. This is follow the course and whatever. Do you have any other questions? Says, no, I believe it's like, okay. And then they just kept her on, and then they had to need her for the third stage because he demolished that too with the fastest time. It was hilarious. It was how did we get here?
Let's just talk about his second stage run since we're talking about him.
It was a blur actually because I
like here's the thing. Here's what I loved about his run. He gets to the Salmon Ladder. And I honestly, I don't know did they have a Salmon Ladder at Muscle Park? Do you know if they had it last year?
In Sasuke Park, I believe so, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think they did.
Okay, because the way he tackled the Salmon Ladder, I honestly believe he's never done it before. He just saw other people do it and said, okay, I'm just going to muscle my way through this. Because it looked like, because he was going so fast, it looked like his strategy was just, I'm just going to... just because he went crooked.
My husband Don,
twice.
Oh God bless him. He says there's no, he just unleash Anastase. He's just gonna bite his way through it. If he falls off, he'll just attach himself by the teeth. That's how he did. So he's doing this play by play. This is let me explain to this. This is during the second stage as this is happening, and he's doing it like the whole Crocodile Dundee. And it's like, oh crikey, he's going up this wall, and he's like, his teeth is about to. I'm sitting there trying not to laugh while he's doing this because if he fell, that would have been really inappropriate. But I'm shaking my head, and Don's giving this cracky thing. Commentary during his second stage. That's why I said it was a blur because I was laughing so hard. I was trying not to not see it because I'm laughing so hard. I'm crying. So, but it was obscene how he just went through that. And then when he got to the walls, we're like, okay, he's gonna break it. I found it funny that it was Drew that ended up breaking it. Although everybody said that Anastase would actually weakened it, and by the time Drew came up there and threw it over his head, it just kind of stuck.
Yeah. Apparently, Drew has the ability to cause other objects to defy gravity.
Oh, more Sasuke trivia. Drew was wearing jeans pants, and Anastase was wearing a collection of everybody else's clothing. Because again, he wasn't expected to be in the second stage, so he didn't bring out extra clothing. So I think his pants. I forget who his pants were, but it was just hilarious. Going, does anybody have clothing that fits this man?
This really.
Oh, I think it was Alexander Mars's clothing. I think in fact, you know what? I'm gonna write it down. I have to ask him whose clothing was in the second stage. It was just funny because it's just everybody. Because actually, Drew didn't bring clothing either for the second stage. I forget what it. I think he forgot it in his hotel room. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, the shorts that he was gonna wear, he forgot in his hotel room, so he was just gonna go into skivvies. And apparently, no, that would have been showing just a wee bit too much. So, and then Gene ended up giving him some clothes.
I've always wondered if someone could get away with doing it in their underwear. I guess the answer is no.
No, the answer is yes. Rich did it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yep. He got paid to wear that underwear.
I forgot that was underwear, yeah.
Oh no, something like that just gets burned into your psyche. You don't forget those types of things.
No, you want burned into your psyche. Let's talk about Mr. Octopus in a thong. Doing a split.
Oh, there were plenty of people. There was plenty of people in thongs in this one too.
That was.
In fact, they kept replaying in the commercial over and over, and yeah, that's burning my psyche. So
anyway. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Wreath Man is probably the best Sasuke debut since Paul Tarek in Sasuke 17.
Had the same vibe too.
Yeah. Well, it's a foreigner who does pretty well. They both failed the cliffhanger, and they both failed in the middle of the cliffhanger too, which is there was a lot of similarities. The biggest difference is that Paul Tarek was a lot slower in stage 2 than Wreath Man. That's largely because he was too big for the spider walk. He couldn't do that fast. But yeah, it was just this whole thing of just non-Japanese person doing really well on their first try, and it's just what's going on?
Yeah.
So
everybody was in shock. One of the other things, and which actually was also part of the article, was the addition of having an unbiased, well, technically anybody that's a lottery is biased, but basically an unbiased audience where they're just there to enjoy the show.
Right.
Their reactions were real. And so that actually made it as well, because as opposed to, somebody that's cheering part of the family, second stage needed that electricity because most of the people leave at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's an hour between the first and second stages, by the way.
That makes sense.
So it gives people time to just kind of, between that and recover from the shock of, having the last 3 guys back to back to back.
We'll get to that.
Well, I went back to the first stage.
Yeah, back to the first. So let's talk about the first stage layout. So we now fully know what the first stage looks like. So first up is Roller Hill. It's a combination of the barrel climb and the rapid descent. Some non-moving logs on top.
Yeah.
So, this might be a bit of a weird conversation because, you're not a big on talking about obstacles, but I'm really big on talking about obstacles.
I did like it, though.
So, I'll say this. I was not a fan of the barrel climb back in the day, and I was not a fan of the rapid descent back in the day.
I agree.
However,
I like.
For some reason, combining the two really works. I really liked it.
It's interesting because the people tackled it very differently. There were some that only concentrated on making sure that they got that first foot jammed in that first set of rollers, and then slowly climbed up. And then you can tell that that's all they were worried about because they either completely failed the second half or they were really slow in the second half.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it wouldn't have provided the 2 WTFs of actually the oh my god followed by the WTF, which was Shingo and Takeda.
Okay.
Because seriously,
Shingo doesn't. When Shingo failed,
he had his freaking hat on. Why did he bring the hat? Leave the hat at home.
So when Shingo failed, my immediate reaction was, of course he would fail there. Because that's something.
Everybody had him pegged for the music box. Literally, if you saw basically the polling on where they thought that Shingo was going to fail, everybody said he was going to Shingo derp the music box. No one had him failing that first one.
Never know. But
so
when Shingo failed, I'm like, oh, of course he would do that because he has a history. And then when
he did it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when Takeda failed
inexplicably.
immediately, right after Shingo went, he does the exact same thing. Like, my initial reaction was just, oh, come on! I just
trust me, that was everybody else's, because you can tell the I don't like using the word arrogance because I don't think it is. I think it's the ego going, no, this is Shingo. He's just going to screw it up. All he needed was just a better jump and he would have gotten it. That's, I think, what his thought pattern was. So he was in the water going, what? Now the best is seeing both Shingo and Takeda looking at each other when Drew ran past them and he almost fell off and then managed to just basically parkour his way out of that thing.
I'll say this,
because it's just like he's seeing himself falling, he jumped right back, and then all of a sudden they cut back to them going, we could have done that! It's like, oh! And I'm thinking in my head, no, sweetie, you could have never done that.
No, they couldn't. What's actually, I really like the reaction from all the celebrity hosts that they cut to after Drew did that. Because that was like a real, like, holy crap moment.
I gotta give him a lot of credit because everyone knows my absolute disdain for the room. And, you know, because when you have like celebrities, okay, they're paid to be there, right, and they're now watching a TV thing. It's already been pre-recorded. Everybody else in the room knows what's going to happen. And then so you might have some like, oh, but they are forced to do their reactions because that's what they're paid to do. You have a camera on you at all times, whatever. So this felt 100% different.
Yeah, more genuine, you would say?
Yes, they were there for every single minute of that show. Right. When I went out to get something to eat, chill out, get out of the sun and whatever, they were there. All 100 people, they saw the entire second stage, the entire third stage. There were points where they just took a little bit of break, but they stopped production. That was when the only time they stopped was when they were resetting for the, you know, children, old people, and women, and then back to the normal stage. So those were the only 2 breaks that they took the entire freaking day. That was obscene. Yeah. So I gotta give them. So they're especially towards the end because you can tell that they were getting tired and they still had the second stage to do. Right. That was real because, like I think I mentioned this before. You don't feel the tension until you are near those stands. Everything else is like, you know, everybody's having fun and whatever. You get in there, it's competition mode. And it's really weird because you don't feel it until that, because there's no music, there's no hype or anything. It's just you hear the crowd, and then you hear the there's always a director or that would tell people when to stay quiet because they did that camera pan from the back of the flyby from the top of the where the red button is, on top of the first stage, yeah. And then they do the whole run because they're now talking. Oh, up next, blah blah blah. You know, from such and such, and give it up for such and such, and that sort of thing.
Give it up for
all of that. We hear everything. We hear everything. So they go 3, 2, 1, and then you hear Sa, blah 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 blah. Sa is next. You know, or up next. Yeah, so you hear all that, and then so you see the camera coming in, and then you see the name flashing in English in the back was freaking awesome. Yeah. And there were Google.
By the way, I saw. I love Drew's face when he saw the way they spelled his name.
Well, that's how they pronounce it. So yeah, I just thought that was funny. Nice. You know that in his official, the only thing that they put for his name is Duru?
Yeah, Drew. He's just Drew.
Yeah, Duru. That's it. They don't even bother with his last name. They just go, it's Drew. He's like Madonna. He's only on a first name basis in Sasuke. Except Prince. Exactly. So it's like Duru. And that's it. And they're like, back, oh God, how do I handle that last name?
He's gonna come back next year as the artist formerly known as Drew.
That's hilarious.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. And then flip side, the most painful experience to watch is Yuuji.
So,
And
Yuuji is not good at the tackle, apparently.
what
Okay, so actually,
how to explain it?
Before we do anything, we should actually mention that this wasn't revealed until until after our last episode. But the tackle, which is the tackle box, but it's now just called the tackle, to my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually 3 boxes that you're pushing. You have to push in order to reach a platform, and then you climb it. And if I
For a total of 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, so the first box is 140 kilograms. The second box adds an additional 160 kilograms. And the final box adds another additional 180 kilograms. Now, it's much lighter for the women, as it was revealed. But
yes.
But like that's a lot of weight to push. And like putting that right before the warped wall
was evil.
An obstacle that requires leg strength.
That was on the second stage. That was previously a second stage obstacle.
And like so apparently out of everyone that was shown, apparently like Yuuji took the longest to do the tackle. Took him like a full 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is like
there is a trick to it, and he didn't know or he couldn't do it. And I think it's the latter. I think he couldn't do it.
What's the trick?
A lot of things, and these are like the intangibles, you can tell he wasn't ready before the tournament started.
Okay.
So, like for example, you can tell by somebody's demeanor, if they're not feeling well, not doing well, or they're not prepared. Nagano falls in this category. Yeah. To give you an example, he scheduled his return flight home for Sunday morning.
When they're taping stage 3.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
That should give you an idea of his mental state right now. He is not a happy camper. He feels forced to do this show. And he will prefer coming in only when he knows that he can put his full 100%. He asked to retire.
Okay.
And they actually had it in the broadcast, but nobody understands, at least in the West, nobody understands that interview. That interview was, I think this is the last time you'll see me. I'm paraphrasing. I'll get the exact translation later. And so at least luckily the reporter person is like, please come back. Just do it one more time. And he goes, I'll see next year how I feel. He did get talked to by both TBS and Inui to give it at least one more shot, have the opportunity for people to say goodbye if it is something that you decide you want to do. And they're not going to push him. They'll deal with it next year and see if he wants to come back. But this may potentially be the last time you will ever see Nagano. Everyone concerned, including myself, would prefer him at least getting out of the first stage and just leave on top, rather than basically pulling a Yamada, and that's the last thing that you see him dying on the wall. So, well, but yeah, Yuuji had the same vibe to him. What I was saying is like a lot of people really don't understand the pressure when you're on there. So the only people that can possibly understand it are other competitors. Japan in specific is a very weird show when it comes to pressure. It's very different. There's also much less people. So the ones that are in the higher ups, there's just a much smaller crowd that is expected to do well, and anything else would be an utter failure. As opposed to AEW, you have a myriad of people from different areas that will be gladly replace you. You know, you're not vital to the show. These people are vital to the show, and that is the face of the show. So the idea that they would be not doing well is catastrophic to the show, and they let them know at all times how critical it is that they do well. So that's why 100 is so crushing. So you just saw Nagano totally lose it. Then you had Yuuji come up. They showed, I think, how many times did they show after his run finished, him trying to go up the wall? Like twice?
Twice, yeah.
He did it 8 straight times.
And I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Each time getting worse, and each time he would stop and stare. You can hear a pin drop. That's how tense it was. And you can see him going like, no, wait. It was just because because the cameras were on and it failed. And he'd look up at it, almost swearing at it from his face was intense. And you just saw this, and you can tell. In fact, where I was not sitting in the stands. I was sitting actually right underneath the final tower, because at that point my foot at this point was killing me, so I was trying to find a place to sit, and I sat on the beams near the final tower. And I can see the warp wall, so I can physically see him with it was past the grandstands. And people around me was going, what was it? Yamete, stop it. Just stop it. And he kept going. And you had people, yamete, yamete, kudasai, yamete, yamete. And it's like, stop. And he kept going. A couple people started crying around me. Like, that was an extremely emotional experience, because you can tell the battle and it's like, everybody knows he can do this freaking well in his sleep, but apparently he can't today. So he ended where he was not able to touch the top of that wall, and it gnawed on him. Oh my God. So this is now Rio sitting in the front, waiting for him to stop what he's doing, because he's next. He's already ready, cameras ready and everything, and they're like, what do we do? We're not going to kick the 2-time champion off the wall. And so it was very painful to watch. So Rio...
So when I saw Yuuji fail, my immediate reaction was, Ryu is screwed. Because I know that Ryu is worse than Yuuji when it comes to external strength obstacles.
Yeah, we've had the discussion that Inouye's, the director, when he directed 1 through 14, the way they set it up was you take whoever the last handful of people that did fantastic on the previous tournament, you pick at whatever their weakness is and throw that on the following one. So it doesn't matter who it was. So for the last one was Matachi and Kawaguchi. So there's really not much to take down Kawaguchi unless it's going to be a mental error. Which proved to be the same.
Just put another final stage tower in stage 1. That's really the only way you can stop it.
Exactly. So he's a very good overall rounded. Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing specific. It's all mental for him.
Spider climb is the only thing he really needed to work at, because he was kind of
although a lot of it is mental as well. It's just that he admits to it. Like, he did not see a single minute of the tournament. He was sitting in the parking lot with his friends, because that's what worked the last time, because he freaks himself out when he sees everybody else. It literally makes him like sick, like he throws up.
Okay, that makes sense.
so he makes sure
Ryu's, weakness is
seeing as soon as we saw the tackle in the front, you heard when we're doing, I think I mentioned that before, it's like you heard the gasps of everybody when they saw the tackle going, oh my God, and everybody looked at Rio. Everybody looked at him going, oh, this is gonna destroy you. Dude, and so this is the entire day. This is now 8 hours later of him staring at his worst nightmare. It's right before the warp wall. And if it wasn't because, I still don't believe he would have passed. But if he didn't see what he just saw before him with his best friend, and then Nagano also be taken down by it. Right. And I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's sitting there going like, dude, some freaking dancer beat this stage with his eyes closed, but he's also twice my size and twice my weight. And again, wearing number 100, last guy, here you go, grand champion to be, here we go. And I can't say that he choked, because that's not the proper word for it. No, the obstacle worked as intended. That is his weakness. He needs to learn how to get rid of that.
And the thing is, he's
mission accomplished.
He's had years to work on this, because he failed the passing wall once before. But
that's a Clifford problem, though. Yeah. And that is something that Inoue is trying to get rid of as a whole. For all of these people that have obstacle courses in their backyards, they're only good on those obstacles.
Yeah.
They cannot adapt. So people like Morimoto are made for something like this. Nagano was made a career out of this. They kept throwing stuff at him, and he never screwed up an obstacle.
He rarely, because most of his training wasn't obstacle specific.
No, he had almost no training on that. It was all stamina and upper body. That's it.
The only
it's the ability to adapt.
What was it? Was it the sliding jump from stage 1 is the only obstacle I remember seeing him train on specifically.
And you only did that in front of the cameras. That's the other thing that a lot of people keep forgetting.
That's true.
It's like, okay, we'll just go somewhere and yeah.
But that's like the only instance that I can think of him training a specific obstacle.
I mean, you have things like, where Shingo has the cliffhanger ledge. Yeah. Actually, he doesn't have that anymore now because it's a completely different business. But simple little things like that, or, backyards, didn't look like Bunpei's, or they didn't look, it's just the idea of everybody having obstacles to train on, that's something that he wants to destroy. And I'm hoping now that everything's cleared that we'll have an actual renewal that can be an entirely topic for sometime during next year or something, because it's just
we can talk about it at the end. Some things. There's a few things I wanted to bring up when we get to the end.
Although that's an SMF, time killer for the next year. You think I'm gonna talk about that for the next 12 months?
Yeah, just a few basic things. But yeah, so it's one of maybe this will finally be like the wake up call that Ryu needed, that he needs to work on his strength and not just the ability to hold himself up on a ledge. Yeah.
Because even Yuuji had the same issues where he always, and I'm sure I'll be corrected, but he usually had problems with an obstacle that he himself has not tried. And that worked because he has not tried to tackle.
No.
And he failed it.
Right.
So, I mean, he didn't technically fail it, but the effects of the tackle caused purposes. Now, I loved that combination, and I know that could be, I don't know if I'm in the majority or minority on this, but I love the combination. Should it come back? I don't know, because I would rather want an entirely different first stage, but if it came back, I wouldn't freak out. It's not swimming.
Yeah. My personal opinion on it is that as long as the warped wall is still there, keep the tackle. Because I really like that combination.
That combination actually proves better to me that they've trained on stamina. Right. Because that's all about stamina. Because the trick with that wall is get it moving. Once you get it moving, the momentum will knock the other ones off with no issues. But the problem, especially with Yuuji, he basically brought it to a cross. So he hit that 1,000 pound mark and tried moving 1,000 pounds.
And he felt
as opposed to he felt it, as opposed to get the first ones moving and ricochet off of the other ones and have that momentum push the other ones and then get to and then if you saw Jin's run. Actually, you did.
No, I didn't. That's.
Oh, yeah, that's an entirely sick. Okay, Jin's run was beautiful.
I'll take your word for it.
I'll ask if we're allowed to. I will ask personally if we're allowed to do it. General policy is you don't, and but I'll ask, and you'll see later on if we can or cannot do that. Okay. I'll ask officially, not him, because he won't do it, obviously. What he did was basically get that first one, just motored that first one and kept pushing it. By the time it got to the third one, he just pushed it forward and it went on his own. And all he did was jump on top to skip over to get to the wall. Right. So that gives you an idea of once you get that thing moving, but a lot of people, no pun intended, tackled it the wrong way. They took all 1,000 pounds of that thing. Right. So it was interesting. I wished that they showed more runs. I wanted to see Kano's face. Kano's face made everyone in the audience laugh. Because he had the silliest grin on his face. Oh my God. It's like, dude, see. It was beautiful. We saw Kong's face on the commercial, or at least the opening. I think it was the opening. I'm trying to remember. I think it was the opening of Navi that they showed his face,
Right.
in the tackle. But they didn't show Kano's, and I wanted to see Kano's because we all listened to it. This is like, that's television. You have to see that. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, they fast forwarded. Like, no, don't fast forward. That was the best thing. They should have at least done like a screenshot of just what that face looked like, and the rest of his run, because I just thought that was the funniest face ever. It was just like, seriously, you put it straight obstacle. Look at me.
Yeah.
I forget who it was at SMF that had said he will tell the tackle machine and it would clear itself or something like that. Oh, and the tackle will move on its own.
Yeah, there we go.
It would look at Kano and it would move on its own. I just thought it was hilarious.
Actually, it's kind of weird that Kenji Takahashi didn't even get like fast forward in stage 1. He just got skipped.
Yeah, 3 people, including Mars.
Yeah, Alexander Mars and someone else who I don't remember was also skipped completely.
Yeah, I know Yube told me the name and I don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. I will remember you for the broadcast.
But like, I really wanted to just bring up Mr. Takahashi, because he was 39 years old for Sasuke 31, and he made it to the 3rd stage again.
Yep.
Does this man age? Because
that is someone that works very hard.
Because
he trains for this specifically, and he has a lot. He's the one-man delivery. It's almost built to how he trains, because he's constantly carrying a lot of packaging, boxes on a daily basis. But when he got
to the Iron Paddler of stage 3, I blinked and he was on the other side.
Well, he's always done that. In fact, I
I
had Ryder do a GIF for me to show how quickly this guy does this.
But it felt like he did it even faster than the other 2 times he did it.
But the Kong Express stops for no one.
Except for the Crazy Cliffhanger, apparently.
Yeah.
Actually,
even Tomo had issues with it. Everybody was surprised at Tomo.
Actually,
I think Tomo was surprised at Tomo.
Well, he just straight up missed the ledge.
Yeah, his entire right hand was off by maybe a foot.
Yeah. So, okay, we're skipping around, but screw it. Here's a serious question.
That's how my brain works, sorry.
Here's a serious question. So, typically, when someone wins, they change. Actually, you know what? And not just typically. Every time someone wins the whole show, the cliffhanger has changed.
Yes.
But the Crazy Cliffhanger is a bit weird because only 4 people have cleared it before? 4 different people? So...
What, the ultimate?
No, the Crazy Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Well, there was a change... well, actually, that was after a win, never mind.
No, yeah. Because the only time... Yeah, because it was Tomo, Morimoto, Kano... and someone else from last tournament that... Shinya, thank you. They're the only 4 to clear the Crazy Cliffhanger. But we have a new winner. So here's...
They could theoretically come back with a different version of the same thing.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm just saying, should they change it? Should they just leave it exactly the same? Or should they change at least some of it?
They can probably just get rid of it entirely.
Okay.
Why do we need a cliff?
Okay, so funny thing about that.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking similar things to that, like...
Oh, we can have literally an entire show of just different obstacles.
I was just thinking,
I wouldn't mind actually having if you want to do that, we can just have an entire show of what if. We can do that the next time if you want.
Oh, yeah, we can do it.
Because this can literally take about 2 hours.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, it's just one of those weird things that I was thinking of. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, typically they change it, but it's still so few people have actually cleared it. So it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. But
I know they won't be touching that for at least a couple months.
Yeah,
Unlike last year, Unlike last year, they actually did a lot more pre-planning well earlier, because if they're planning to change the entire course,
Right.
they have to send a lot of things over to health and safety.
That makes sense.
Yeah, health and safety came back a couple times during this tournament. And those were the things that weren't shown. And I know I'm going to be talking about it in my blog. I know it came up in chat. One of the things, the big one was Drew in the third.
Why?
Yeah. Okay. He passed the Crazy Cliffhanger. If he were an A&W, it would have counted.
Okay.
The problem with it is how he did it has been deemed illegal in the last 12 months.
Did he stretch his arm out and then, like...
No.
No?
He physically turned around.
Oh, he did do that?
Yes,
Okay.
and cleared it.
Because it was so... Because, like, I was actually... Because,
Yeah.
just the other day, I was actually
He
thinking,
trained for it last year. Yeah, he trained for it last year.
I actually thought to myself, could someone do this?
Could, yes, they've been doing it for years. Here's the history of how this happened. Last year, when it happened, he actually had said, and I remember this distinctly, that he was planning to do it, and then everybody else kind of like pushed him. Everybody else is going forward. Like, he just wanted to be one of the big guys, and he went forward and failed it. He trains more forward because he finds it easier to do it that way. It's just a technique that he prefers.
Right.
Because when you twist over, there's so many things that can go wrong. So for the past year, he's been training that way. Predominantly, I would assume. I would assume that he's also done the twist.
Right.
But he's had more successes forward. That would have been fantastic. Problem is, last year, right after the tournament and right before it aired, was Lalaport. And Lalaport, Yuuji was doing it. And Yuuji was doing it in public. He got admonished for that. There's a video of it. In fact, Gene has the video. In fact, if I'm positive, I'm not positive. If I remember correctly, it's still on SMF on the Lalaport thread. You can go look for it. I think we linked it from his Facebook account.
Okay, I'll have to look
And
at
he
that.
did it forward, and they said, it's a really cool jump. It's very pretty to look at. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of things that can really go wrong with that. And please do not show the children something that cannot be done in Sasuke. Is you can't just like, no, because you can actually fail worse and horribly just trying to turn around. So it is not safe. We prefer not to do that. It looks gorgeous and it's really a lot of woo and ah, but we prefer you guys not do that. Fast forward a year later, Drew didn't get that information.
Yeah, no one told Drew.
The onus fell on his representative from TBS International, because that's all handled by the distribution arm of the show, the ones that deal with all the spin-offs, the ones that deal with A&W, all of the 7 different countries. In fact, 6 of them were there, and this is what basically lost in translation. It should have been told to him. He did not know. Did he do it on purpose to piss off people? Oh, hell no. That was probably the best jump I'd ever seen in my life. As soon as he turned around, I knew it was illegal. There was no question. If I were to see a camera on my face, I'm going, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. He's not going to. Oh, that was a great. Here. And then instantly I heard Inui's voice. And then probably the most awkward. It felt like 20 minutes. It was probably 5. There was a very heated argument between him and Inui, yelling and pointing and all kinds of inappropriate things. I understood why he was upset. I think he handled it poorly. Given the circumstances, I understand entirely why he did that. He didn't do that to be an a-hole. He didn't do that to be flashy and I'm going to go, all A&W. No. That's how he trained. He had better success on that, and no one told him it was illegal. So from his perspective, it was just handled poorly. it's a generational gap. I understand that. You know my stance on quote unquote showboating and whatever. And I'm a dinosaur. I'm from a different generation. You don't talk to people that way. And the best thing that TBS did, the most political thing to do, was not show it at all. Because he did get a rerun, like, go, you do it, that sort of thing. But he got the rerun, and then you saw what the rerun was. And so they cut the argument out, because if they really wanted to sink him, they would have just put that 5-minute footage. So for people that are worried, like, is he ever going to come back or whatever? I don't know. I don't have that kind of control. In fact, that's a TBS International invite. And considering how the fact that they even showed it and not fast forwarded like all the other ones, I think he's fine. So that's my own personal take on it. I have no control over it. But was the jump awesome? Oh, hell yeah. All of a sudden went nice fast speed, went up and turned around, jumped over, celebrated, and then you couldn't even hear Inui stopping him because the crowd was on their feet. If that were an A&W, he'd be deemed a god. It's just as simple as that. Does it suck? Absolutely, because that should have been communicated well before he did that. They had 2 days to do it, and they didn't do it. So it was just an awkward situation. The second one was in the second stage during Jin's run. And that is still a point of contention. For right before his run, the salmon ladder broke again. They had a lot of physical problems with the salmon ladder. Like, it sounded like jackhammers were constantly on it. They had, I think, 1 or 2 people immediately stop everything and start fixing it. Another 2 people immediately stop and fix it. Right before Jin's run, 20 solid minutes of just power tools to try to put this thing back together. It rocked all over the place. So I think what had happened was, when they went to have it, because he's standing there the whole time, so I could just imagine his entire mental state just breaking down, going, I failed here last year, I'm gonna do this. And he trained like crazy for this. So he gets on the cross slider, and there's an immediate problem. The consensus so far, it's almost consensus. I think they forgot to put the stopper to keep it from rocking. So his was the only violent throw, because he was perfectly set, perfectly centered, and went, like, he committed, as opposed to last year. Last year was, I wanted to reset my hands, and then he was about to, and then all of a sudden it moved. It wasn't like that. He was completely prepared for it. And testers immediately freaked out, as in, like, we thought for a good 45 minutes he was going to get a second run. And then all of a sudden the day was done. So by the time all this information had passed over, to the people that needed to be, it was already over and people were already going home. So he didn't get that rerun. Sadly, the best reaction out of all of it was Kong, because Kong was a former tester. So he goes, "What was that?" And they're like, the stopper was off probably. He goes, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh man, that sucks. You too, man." And then that's it. That was like the end of the conversation, because everybody's like, they spent, like, I would say a solid 2 hours. Remember how I said it took me a while to get, they were all talking about it. That was like the buzz. Everybody else had passed and whatever obstacle was broken and whatever. No, they didn't care. They were trying to figure out why the heck Jin dropped off that. And it was because they forgot the stopper. We don't have confirm on that, and I doubt that the production crew, whatever, it was brought to, the right attention. He didn't see it. He was too busy to whatever. The second day, he was there and was able to call Drew's run. But it was because of what happened the night before that he shifted how he did his priorities. Because he's running the show, so so it just meant he didn't see it. He saw it on the replay, and I saw the full replay that was not on television. The entire and with that footage, it confirmed, something was wrong with it. If it was exactly what we think it is, don't know. But his shook so much it literally threw him off. Right. So everybody was like, "Oh God, that sucks." But is everybody said it, and I agree. This is Sasuke. If anybody knows about being screwed, it's Kong. He had two of them. The disqualification on the swap salmon ladder that was utter BS because he did actually land it, and the manual switch came off and they knocked them off of it. And the other one was the final where, the dude in the top didn't know how the heck to work the thing, and then it robbed them of the final. So if anybody understands about the bullcrap that happens and just the facepalm moments, this is Sasuke, and that's what happens. Does it suck? Oh yeah. I'm still furious about it, but at this point, what can we do? Just train harder and come back next year. Then that's what we hope. Obviously, we just found out that the tournament's coming back, so there are no invites for the following year. But it's just, those were the things that, so when somebody had asked me, is this a perfect tournament? I'm like, no. But then again, I've heard of stories of where they had a couple reruns, or an entire obstacle would be destroyed, or something broke, and every tournament has that. It's how they deal with it is what separates the two. Right. A&W celebrates when somebody gets maimed, and TBS gets horrified, going, "Oh dear God, please nobody get hurt." Yeah. So it's just a different temperament. The same thing happens on both shows. Yeah. So it just sucks for Drew. I'm happy he got a rerun. It's a shame. I don't know if he was able to pass it. I'm sure he's passed it before with the twist forward. Everybody had him pegged to win the darn thing. So that would have been epic. Oh my God, could you imagine?
NBC's reaction?
NBC would have had a heart attack. Yeah. But anyway, so it is what it is. Ultimately, I loved how the rest of the show went. It had enough of those moments where it's like crushing. Oh God, you didn't do that too! Yay! I'm so happy with Anastase getting all the way to the just about to jump over stage, and it was awesome. Oh, he saw the how to do that obstacle. An hour before, I did the interview with him about 2 hours before. I had my friend Kathy do the translation. TBS totally jacked my interview because they had nothing on him. So all of a sudden he sees, me with my digital recorder out. I had a couple people there. I had his in-laws there, or soon-to-be in-laws, and all of a sudden they come over and going, "Oh, you're getting information from it." It's like, okay, good. I have a couple questions. This went on for like a half an hour. Like, I totally got my interview checked. It was hilarious. They asked very different questions I would have never asked. So if you see, I'll explain which ones are when I get to the blog. But yeah, so after that, Gene had taken out his tablet and showed him in great detail. In fact, he was showing Tomo's because that's the closer to his body build, and because Tomo's one of the taller ones anyway. I think he is the tallest one out of the Japanese. Yeah, I think he's the tallest one of the Japanese. Showing how he passed the cliffhanger. So they're doing body. I have a video of that. So once I finally get all that taken care of, I'll put the video up of what it looked like of him, training. And that was the first time he'd ever seen that obstacle, let alone in competition. That was the first time I ever seen that obstacle. And so I give him a lot of credit that he got as far as he did, because most people just touch that ledge and immediately fall, and he didn't. So, yay!
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I guess, question about stage 2.
Sure.
So, how do you feel about this new, like mechanical problems aside, how do you feel about the addition, the new version of the salmon ladder, where first you go up and then you go down?
I was so happy it wasn't a swap. At first when I saw it, I'm going, do you have to jump across and back? And oh, you don't. Interesting. And it's funny because everybody did that backwards jump on their own just to... they've been doing that since Muscle Park.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
Well, it's like, well, we got to get the bar down somehow. Might as well do it on the way down.
I know there was some discussion on whether or not you can jump from the top. I would think that it is not... I think you can,
But it's not wise.
It's pretty far distance, and look what happened to Shingo and Takada when they tried, shortcutting it. It is a lot closer when you jump off from the bottom. There are risks with both. I believe the rule is to go down, in which case that makes sense because, do the actual obstacle. This is not a parkour thing, trying to get to point A to point B with the shortest thing by skipping everything. No, you do the obstacle.
Well, you had to get to the bottom just to do the jump because they had the netting in the way.
Yeah, actually, I never noticed the netting.
Yeah, no, if you look, there's actually...
I have to go see it. I actually did not remember seeing the netting.
Look, there's actually a net. There's a net.
I was sitting... Well, you saw the...
I know where you were sitting, but, like, if you...
Yeah, so I didn't see that other than on television, and the screen was way across the way from me.
Like here's the net, it's not like a super coarse net, so it's easy to miss.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to the net with the spider drop. Like, there's a net there. But
actually, I think it was a rule because if I'm not I have to check with Kathy because one of the translations was make sure you go down to the bottom.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's a rule, but like maybe like you could probably make the jump from the second to last rung or something like that. But like there was definitely a net for a screen just to kind of at least make it clearer that you're supposed to go all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a nice detail.
I like the pacing a little bit. I still don't like the backstream, and nothing in the world will ever make me like the backstream. But it was a better pace this year. Yeah. Again, my big thing is if an obstacle does not automatically, again, because I'm more into the people, if I'm talking more about an obstacle, there's a problem with the obstacle. Or if I'm paying attention to the time, that's also a problem. So there wasn't anything like it was too lenient or too harsh. I think it was just right. So in that sense, that's why I liked it because it was not something that was in the forefront of my mind. In fact, when people ask me what the times were, I'm like, I don't know, because I wasn't going to give them the story of, well, you had a few good runs and the people cleared. I'm not going to tell them that. So I don't remember what the time was. I couldn't see it. The clock was right in front of me, but it was flipped away from me, so I had no idea what the actual... I still don't know what the time it was. What's the timer for the second stage? Is it 45?
Good question. So, I don't remember.
That's fine. Either way, it wasn't an issue. So... you had a decent amount of clears. Some of the fails were surprise. Okada's was a very interesting one, and I think a lot of people's respect went higher for Okada's fail because he was asked specifically, "Why didn't you just shove your body underneath that? You would have passed." And he goes, "Yeah, I would have passed, but I would not have been able to see my children in the eye." Huh. And I thought that was a very interesting answer. He wanted to legitimately pass that obstacle, and he did not have enough strength to do it completely over and pass at the same time. He wanted to put it over his head and pass it legitimately rather than have the stigma of just throwing your body under.
Right.
So that also answers the question on what the perception was, because even on Morimoto's, there would from previous years, because it's not just Rio that had that issue. Yeah. Morimoto also had that issue, and although Morimoto paid for it last time around,
yeah, he got caught.
Yeah, although he admits that he was never going to be able to do that anyway. His was because he completely overestimated the time earlier, and he was just too darn slow. So he says he deserved to be, pinned under that wall because he tackled that entire stage just correctly.
For this time around, Morimoto came up with that technique for the wall lift.
Yeah,
he used his leg to brace underneath to get underneath.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I gotta give him a lot of credit on that. He's just constantly trying to change how he does things.
One thing I've been kind of saying for a few years now with the wall lift is that there's too much space underneath it And a very simple way I feel you can kind of fix that is if you just have the safety pad go all the way down.
They had something similar to that, and even now, because there is safety pad, it's actually worse to try to, it crinkles in your hand, so it can slip more because you don't have a solid grip on it.
I guess.
So you just came from, you're soaked in water, slipping and sliding and moving, and then so you're trying to move, so you're lifting the pad and then not the wall. And then what if that buckles? So somebody actually can get hurt worse that way. There has been discussion on it because ever since they raised it, a lot of people have been complaining. But now that it was raised and you can't break somebody anymore, looking at you, Shingo, who got pinned underneath the full wall, their health and safety will never allow that to come back that way. I would prefer that thing is gone, but we can always discuss that in another show because we can talk about that for hours.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's been in almost every Sasuke tournament. Maybe it is time to change it.
We'll see. And for the record, nobody asked me to ask Inoue. If you really want to do it, he has a Twitter, go ask him. Do you have any idea how many quote-unquote private messages have been sent? And I'm like, I am not somebody's errand person.
You're not the messenger.
Go ask him. I'm not a messenger. They're like, look, I already have enough stuff to talk to him about. Hey, I do not.
I tweeted him once. He replied.
He doesn't always reply to things, and remember that even if you send him a message, if there is something that he cannot answer, like for example, hey, can you do this for Sasuke 32? He's not going to answer you for several reasons. A, they're not even thinking about that yet. B, why should they tell you? Now, they'll probably have another contest thing next year. I don't know. You can ask them that because you'll be more than happy to send some information on, hey, can you put this in 32?
Oh, by the way, that reminds me. I really like the music box.
Yeah, music box was actually interesting. The sound was post-production. You did not hear it.
No, that was pretty obvious to me that was.
I didn't even know, and then Yube's like, "You don't hear the sound?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Oh, because the way this was funny. The stream, the SMF stream was running on my laptop, and it was a full 2 minutes behind live. Just to let you know, okay. Full 2 minutes, and so. Gene was trying to figure out a way so we're talking about the same thing at the same time. So he goes, oh, I have an idea. So he took his laptop, turned it around, and pointed it at his TV and turned it on so I can see his TV. I mean, obviously it's not HD, but I can see what is going on. And I could hear because, we're talking to each other. So that's how I saw Sasuke. And it was live. So then I was able to talk to Yubei, too, because he was watching on his TV. So he's like, how are you watching it on time? And it's like, he's showing me on Skype. So it was actually pretty funny. So the minute details I was seeing from a tiny Skype screen because I had like 6 different things open on it once, and I had Nico running also on my computer, plus the thing on my. Oh, I'm not surprised that I got a migraine afterwards. My brain was split too much, but that's why I didn't see the minute details of the netting or anything like that. And then of course because I didn't see it live, it wasn't something that I was specifically looking for. So, but the music box was interesting because as soon as they saw it, and as funny as it sounds with SMF, where they say, oh yeah, that's where Shingo's going to fail, everyone said that is where Shingo was going to fail at the tournament. It was just this known thing. Shingo's going to fail there. I just thought all of that is so wrong. That is so wrong. But I liked it. You can tell people that did not take it seriously because they did okay at the top and then just botched the ending. Right. That's why I had said the predominant thing for this tournament is stamina and conviction. You needed to commit. That obstacle, you could not lollygag. You had to commit. Same thing with the tackle. You had to commit. barrel. I still call it barrel climb. The rolling hill had to commit. If you took your mind off of that course for a second, you were gonna fail.
I mean, technically, if you had to commit to log grip too, because
that's another story. The log grip apparently was and it was ever so slight, the steeper angle, and to accommodate the steeper angles, the drops were more pronounced. It was so bad, every competitor that managed to pass it all had deep bruises on the inside of their arms to be able to hang on to it. The guys that did the Sidewinder also had the same problem. So you had all the guys that passed the Sidewinder had these deep it looked like somebody beat them up, all of their arms in the inside. In fact, when we went to the dinner that following Monday, Yuuji was complaining. They said, "Look at my arms. I look like I got beaten up." And they all started poking at her, going, "You just got that from the log grip, you idiot. Well, I got mine from the log grip and the Sidewinder, so you can't talk." And so they kept messing with him from that perspective because, he only did one of the obstacles. And then Tomo pulled out his arms, and he looked like he was just flogged. It was like it was horrible. And
that's very.
I'm trying to remember if I have a. Yes, it was that hard because they did not want to fall. So in order to hang on to it, and the log grip was also made from a different material.
Right.
So the impact when it dropped and you hung on to it, it's like you slammed your arms into it that much harder. So they bruised their inner arms. So it was very interesting. And then Sidewinder, same thing. It's like it is padded, but just the amount of pressure to make sure you did not fall off, because they saw testers fall off that thing. So they just threw their bodies at it and grabbed it. And they threw their bodies at it and they grabbed it. And that's how they got all of these deep bruises in their arms. Right. So it was interesting. So they're like, "Oh, I don't even want to know what Morimoto's arms look like." So he had already left Kochi by that point. So I would have to ask if he had that. If he had that as well.
Really quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Sidewinder, yay or nay?
I have decided that I think I have too much of a dirty mind, so I would rather get rid of it.
Wow. Really?
That looks like an obscene obstacle to me.
I didn't think of that.
There's several ways that you can think of that, too.
I didn't think of that at all. I just saw it as giant stalactites.
Everybody did.
I didn't think that at all. You people are sick.
I'm sorry. Well, you asked me. That is my opinion. Get rid of it because I can't stop chuckling.
All right, I guess.
Don't worry about it. Just move on.
Thought I knew it.
For what it was that they were expecting, it worked. Similar to the tackle, that killed Kano. If you notice, when Kano got off of that thing, he got to he was already having problems, and then it's sheer willpower got him through that cliffhanger. So by the time he got to the vertical, he had nothing left. Yeah. So ultimately, the Sidewinder did not eliminate anybody directly, similar to the way that the tackle did not eliminate anybody directly. So both things worked in tandem. They worked as intended.
Well, technically, one person did fail the tackle because time ran out when they were on that obstacle. So, yeah,
really?
One of the women. They showed during a digest. She was in the middle of the tackle when time ran out. So technically...
Now, I was actually surprised they did not show Ayano.
Yeah,
Ayano...
They skipped a lot of women.
Ayano is literally the first woman ever to clear the warp wall in competition. First woman ever. Right. And they fast-forwarded that.
Yeah, well.
So... if she had the 15 minutes that Casey had, we would have had it the first stage. Sorry, I didn't sound bitter when I said that, did I? She passed it. She was literally one obstacle away from history. But because we have a timer in Sasuke, that is not ascending, but descending, we still don't have a first clear. But she got all the way to the top of the warp wall and passed it. After doing the tackle. Holy crap. Yeah. And yes, it is less than what the men's were, but again, if you had the A and W timer, we still would have gotten it. Because she has trained on a much, much taller than the male size. Because that same wall that the ABC, Z, whatever, everybody trains there. And that's a foot taller than the original. And they do that on purpose, so because by the time you get to Sasuke, it's like, oh, this one's much shorter. And he does that on purpose. It's actually taller. And the curve is, so she's trained on that constantly. They do it as a joke. And it's like, oh, Ayano, run up that wall. And, she does. There you go. So and she almost didn't do it because by the time she got to the wall, you heard the klaxon and everybody just run up the wall, and she got it on her first try. And it was like, so she felt better, like, yay, I actually passed it, but it doesn't mean anything because I still didn't pass the first stage. But for history's sake, she still did better than Mika. Because Mika did it in qualifiers the way Casey did also in qualifiers, because nobody's been able to no female's been able to do the wall in competition. So it was nice that that not only did she get to the wall, but she passed it on their first try. So that's, again, history that was fast forwarded.
Yeah. What you gonna do?
Yeah. Yep. I just hope there's another DVD. Woo! No, there's not gonna be a DVD. I'm working on it.
Should have asked. Yeah, it'd be cool because I would totally get someone to buy that for me if they had a Sasuke 31 DVD.
Yeah, the problem is though that unless you have a Region 2 DVD, it's kind of
let's just say it's not an issue for me. And leave it at that. Let's just say if I was able to get a DVD, it wouldn't be an issue. And that's all I'll say.
That's fine.
So, anyway.
But we can always discuss that part later. It's one of the many projects that I have running. My ultimate goal is to have as many people watch that show as possible legally. And so that's just been an ongoing thing for the 7 years that I've been doing this, but ultimately the last 4. So we'll see. Right. So, look forward to it. Hi.
Okay, so kind of running long, so I guess just a few more topics just to talk about to wrap up this, because we can always talk about more next month.
Yep.
So it's the 3rd stage. Morimoto has just passed the vertical limit. As a member of the audience, what are you thinking?
As soon as he passed the cliffhanger, it was over.
You knew he was going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the vertical limit, he scared us a little bit. Remember, Kana was before him.
No, he was not.
Who was the one that was...
Kana was 95.
Was he the... Wait. He said... Oh, that was...
Morimoto's 91.
Yeah, that's right. Who was it that I was thinking that got there?
The one right before him was Wreath Man, wasn't it?
I think in my mind, because he had passed with great ease and he did not wince or anything with the cliffhanger, it was like, okay, because he trained so much finger strength for anything that we didn't think it was going to be an issue.
Okay.
And then we weren't. Now, I know he's been training like crazy. There was some discussion on whether or not the platform was closer, and he said no, it wasn't. It's the same. It just looks different when you see it live.
Right.
The angle of the camera plus the wide angle lens makes it feel it's still far, and that's the same length that he failed before. So, how do I explain it? Remember how I was explaining? I don't use the word aura often because I don't actually believe in that, but there was an air of confidence in him, not cockiness. He had so prepared for this tournament, you felt confident seeing that he was going to have 0 issues. So the ones that we had the biggest problems with, he passed with ease. I felt a lot calmer. So when I saw him get to the pipe slider and he smiled, I knew definitely that he was going to be fine. And it was funny because I expected people to be talking about whether or not there was a stopper at the end because his body did not move once he got into position. But that is all training. That's just solid core training. And it was funny because people kept asking him to lift his shirt because he's now completely buff. He's actually even lost weight from last year. So he's just solid muscle now. And they're like, my God, let me see your abs. That's crazy. Because what he made that obstacle, he made it look like a joke. So it was, well, you saw my reaction because that was in the opening of Navi.
Yeah.
So when people were saying, so when was that? I'm like, I think you can figure it out. It's nighttime. Actually, no, they wouldn't have known that. So I was like, I couldn't confirm or deny, but if you see from the background was the second. Well, they saw, if you notice in the background, it was the second stage behind me.
Okay, so here's the thing. I missed you during the Navi. Because as
I missed it too until I started blogging it. That's why I said I saw it screenshot. I'm like, oh dear God, there I am.
I'm someone who doesn't overanalyze screenshots. So when you posted the screenshot to Twitter, all I saw was...
When was that?
No, all I saw was you in the audience and thinking, when did they show this in the Navi? Because I completely... Okay, so I have a question. Sure. Did they show you at all during the broadcast? Because I know they cut out Gene, so that whole ship sailed. Unfortunately, were you actually shown in the audience at all? Because I didn't see you because largely just because I'm looking at like the competitors and stuff. I rarely look at the audience.
If you can find Don, it was always in the same place. My friend Kathy was wearing a pink shirt with a pink shirt with a I think it was a large peach sun hat, and then Don was sitting next to her, and he's a big tall guy, and then me wearing the if people saw the picture of me posing with Nagano, that's what I was wearing. The only difference is I had a white hat on because I was trying not to get burned alive. Yeah, but that is the clothing that I wore. It was like this blue blouse, tank top type thing, sleeveless.
Right.
So it was always in the same place. First, the first grandstand on the far right side, like second or third row up. So you can see, like, whenever anybody failed on the descending climb. Or descending the back half of the rolling hill.
Right.
You can see me perfectly.
Okay.
But you had to be looking for it, and that's what I wanted. I did not want to be a distraction. So, and I saw me in the first run, and he did not put that in the. He didn't put my interviews of me acting like an idiot. It was a really sweet thing because the video for the first stage, for Gene, the way I remembered it was actually less magical than it actually was. Because it was very magical, but it was just, I saw it from, my rose tinted glasses. It was just a beautiful moment. And when you saw it on video, I cried because I just thought it was such a sweet moment. Just, everybody, I still love how he inadvertently Yamada. Because Yamada high-fived him, but he was gunning right for the guy next to him, and then so he's like, yeah, and then bear hugged the guy right next to him, like basically dissing Yamada. It was just funny. It's like, you totally Yamada. It's like, wait, what? Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. It was one of the, and then of course I had all of my my group and my friend Carol and her daughter and then you had all of the other stars and they kept stopping everybody and they're like trying to move it along and everybody kept coming out to like high five him because they were so happy for him and it was just a really sweet moment and I hope we'll be able to see that. Maybe if they're not doing the DVD, they'll put that up on YouTube then. Maybe somebody can petition for that because the caveat last year was that they stopped showing it because they were planning to put that on the DVD. But if they're not planning to put it on the DVD, put it on YouTube. It's already edited. All they have to do is just, point it on online.
Yeah.
So everybody got it. In fact, that was one thing, as a thank you for waiting for 6 weeks. They made sure that the day of the tournament, in their mailboxes, each of them got their copies of their video.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Okay.
So, I would love to see all of them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So, there's one stage we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
We should probably talk about it.
I got a picture of it before they said everyone, like they literally said, everyone, take your phone,
Turn it off.
show it to me, turn it off, put it away. Under no, it's like you will have it confiscated and it will never come back. I was like, wow. They're like, it is only 30 seconds. It fits in your camera. Do not videotape this. Please do us this favor. So everybody put their phone away and whatever. And they had like 4 people staring at the audience to make sure. But before that announcement, I took a picture of my seat. I think I put it on Twitter.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Front row, as far left as you can go. So I was not in the camera when everybody showed, everybody freaking out in the final. I was on the other side of that. And it's fine because no one needs to see me freak out. I was jumping all over the place. I was crying, freaking. It is such an remember I was talking about tension? Nothing matches the final. Nothing. It took maybe half hour, 45 minutes to set it up. Between interviews and mostly just to move, herding cats. The addition of all those people, lottery people, trying to get them to where they were supposed to sit and whatever, it was really weird because they were trying to move us around the cabling and whatever. So it made it a lot longer. Once you sat down and you see you can probably see the sweat on his face. That's how close we were. So we saw him from his back. And when you see up the rope, you can see the sideline reporter on the top. So in the direction that he ended up, finally finishing, you saw his body in that direction. And we knew that he had cleared because we heard the klaxon. And then, of course, everybody freaking out. We didn't know because we didn't have the time. But it was evident that it was clear. And then, they started screaming. You had the smoke and whatever. It happened so fast. And we saw him slip twice. And so I know how long a klaxon is.
Right.
So I'm listening and I'm counting in my head and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to I could swear that he sped up at the top because he was not running the same pace. It's just like all of a sudden he started speeding up. I don't know how he did it, or at least that's how my brain remembered. It was epic. So
yeah, the audience really added to it just because when he hit the button, the volume of cheers was so.
That was, we all jumped to our feet. All of us did. It was just like yeah. I was a hot mess.
And also, I think this is. The entirety of the celebrity booth is justified for that moment.
Yes,
where
that was legit.
Celebrating because they're going nuts.
Yeah, because at this point, this is like hour 26. Because let's see, the first day started. Their day started like 9 o'clock in the morning, and it went to 2 a.m. on the first day.
Right.
And then the second day started at 8 and finished at 3 a.m.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like 24 hours. So that's legit tired. And I haven't been able to find anybody that doesn't legitimately like him. He's been on the show, what, 7 years, 8 years?
Since Sasuke?
No. 9 years.
Sasuke 18, whatever that was.
Yeah, 9 years. That was 2005? No, 6. 2006 was 7 years. Yeah, because 2006 is when Nagano won it in Sasuke 17.
It's been 8 years.
Yeah, it's, as far as USA is concerned, the entirety of their knowledge of Ninja Warrior, they've always known Morimoto in one form or fashion. And he, from 15 years old, which is every American's dream to be on the show at that age, and consistently getting better. So it was really awesome.
What I really liked about, because I mean, even though we can't understand Japanese, well, at least I can't understand Japanese. Mm-hmm. When you watch the show, you get with the fluff pieces about Morimoto.
Yeah,
there's a lot that you understand.
Yeah,
and they told a really good story. Like, they showed him before stage 2. They showed him, and I'm assuming his grandfather, like, talking about Sasuke and going through those DVDs that he burns and how they like watching the show. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. And then like they show him some of the things he did with training. Like, he was so like, you know, he apparently a ladder is a good replacement for a water tank for the backstream training. Not quite sure if that's the same thing, but whatever, it works, so who am I to judge?
It's the motion, and to be tired of doing that, yeah.
No, I get it. It's just a weird visual.
It worked.
No, it worked. It's just a weird visual. You see him training on the Crazy Cliffhanger and all that, but most of all, what I really liked was before his final stage run, they showed the history of Morimoto and Sasuke, going all the way back to when he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Doing, and there was footage of him doing obstacle stuff.
Yeah.
See footage of him training at 15 years old. There's video footage of him. And then at, I believe it was 16 years old, he debuts in Sasuke
15.
18.
He was 15.
At 15 years old, he debuted at Sasuke 18. And funny enough, he was number 91 in Sasuke 18. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty appropriate that he end up winning with number 91.
Yeah, somebody actually brought that up in SMF.
Yeah.
And that was something that he chose. Remember that?
Yeah, 19, yeah. 18, yeah, because that's when you got to choose those numbers.
Yeah.
It also meant he had to run pretty well during that qualifier.
Yeah, he was he says top middle pack. Nobody wanted to touch the top, and there were plenty of them. It was like four or five numbers, and so he chose the first of those because they still had everybody at the end.
Right.
So except for 100, because 100 was like the first one taken.
Oh yeah, and you never actually got to see that guy.
I think when I'm happy that they communicated without words, he's one of the rare people, and I think the reason why the pressure has not crushed him, he legitimately is a fan of this show. To give you an example, now that I can actually talk about this, Morimoto, Tada, and I sat and watched as much of the show as possible, but because he wasn't allowed to be in the stands, because he wasn't cheering anybody, and he was a competitor, so he had to be waited later, we kept trying to get past security, and security was stopping. They kept stopping him to see. So here we are underneath the bleachers, and at one point we tried hiding and so at the end we ended up like taking selfies of each other, and this is what we did all day. I spent the entire day with Morimoto. And so it was a really, really cool, because he goes, I want to see the show. He's like, I want to see the show. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I got an angle. And we run over, and we look over and like, yay, I can't see. And then we run over to the side because we can see where the warp wall was. So half the time is who can get to the point of the warp wall, because we can see past the warp wall. So it was really cool, because the pressure didn't hit him, because he legitimately loves this show, so he can actually do that disconnect between Morimoto the competitor and Morimoto the 6-year-old that was going nuts over the show as if it was the first time he'd ever seen it, because he legitimately loves his show. And you can tell the ones that are very pressured, because at the risk of sounding bad, and it's not, they internalize too much of themselves in it. They can't do that disconnect. So I think that's why you had that freshness in him, where it was all smiles and lighter, because he truly enjoyed the moment. So when you see him, at the top of the tower, and it was just this disbelief on his face, like, I can't believe I got here. So after all of that happened, remember the crowd was, we were on the other side, and then we were kind of shooed along the side. You had everybody, all of the competitors' parents, the other competitors, the Americans, all the foreigners, basically the VIP people were on the other side, where you would normally see, and what you actually saw in the broadcast. They showed that side of it. So they had their pictures and their group pictures, and they had like 4 different interviews. And then finally I was able to go around and talk to him. And that was when I realized I didn't get the signatures for Morimoto. This isn't, at this point it was about half an hour, but he posed for every photo, he signed every autograph, and then when I brought over my book, he goes, "Oh no, I promised you. Let me just sit down. I'm exhausted." And I said, I'll mail. He goes, "No, take them out and I'll do that." In fact, one of them, he signed with the date with the Kansensei Ha. That is going to Tim, the guy that gave me the plane tickets, and then the other ones are going to the people that paid for it. It was funny because I'm like, those people were the ones that knew he was gonna win. So he signed it. Only one of them had the date, so sorry about that, but he did it. And he's like, do you need anything else? And I said, "No, I'm good." He goes, "Okay." And he's like, "I'm really sorry." And I'm like, "That's fine." So I'm just so happy for him. But he never changed. And that was something that even Gene and I were talking about. He didn't change. There wasn't this, "Oh, well, I'm now champion," and what, nothing. The same Morimoto that started the tournament was the same Morimoto that ended. And even when you talk to him now, he hasn't changed. And I am so happy about that. So the previous generation had the Nagano, that mystique, because he has, and I don't know if it's something from being raised in the country or something, but he's not Nagano by any stretch of the imagination, but he's basically this generation's version of him. He's soft-spoken, he's not at all shy, he's just very meticulous about, if he's going to say something, it has to have meaning, so he doesn't throw away words. So he's very different, a lot more reserved. But he has that air. It's hard to explain. He has that air. He still commands everybody. He's still young. He's what, 25?
He's 20.
24? 23? Oh God, I had him older than that. I have him at 30. That's how mature this kid is. I mean, well, he's not a kid, but
he's younger than me.
Yeah. It's just, he carries himself. He's been carrying himself as a champion for a lot longer than he is. So I'm hoping, that's why I'm really hoping now, and he's done well. Last year, he was the first person to ever pass A&W's third stage.
Yeah.
So so from the American point of view, I hope that people get to see this, which is why I'm like, oh God, this needs to come back back worldwide. Get as much publicity, which is why I was so happy to see them trending second in the world, going, people need to see this, because this show should still continue on its own. And it's fine that it's not A&W. Have A&W have its own show, and Sasuke have their own show. And if they never mix together, no, well, I want both. Each of them has their own history, their own way of doing things, their own demographic. And I am still very much a fan of this show, and I was so happy that this show happened, because last few, I'm like, okay, but this was the perfect show for me, as perfect as the show will ever be. It had just enough of the good things, just enough of the WTFs, a lot of surprises. It had a good mix. I can complain about the editing all day, but the ultimate results and how it was handled and everything else, it's top 3, and because I'm biased and I was there, number one for me. So I think this show needed to happen to continue, for the show to continue. And just we need this show.
Also,
so it's exciting.
Also, it had Wreath Man.
Yes. And again, anyone that argues about, obstacles and whatever, that they were always afraid that if someone had never trained on the show, would they ever have Wreath Man? They got their answer.
Yeah, there you go.
So it was just the right difficulty that someone that has no background in it can still do it. Yes, he is an athlete. He's never trained. He doesn't have any of these obstacles in his backyard. And, doing something in a park a year before does not make you a god. No. Well, apparently for him it does, but...
I think he was already a god.
So I like that it's slowly going back to the accessible, where anybody looking at it can go, I can do this show. Because you need more of that for people to continue to be that invested in a show in Japan. Because it lost it there for a while. It's sort of like, oh, that's impossible. I'll never be able to do that. Even if for them is, okay, I can get past to the first to the second stage and then I'll definitely die in the third. That's still something to aim for. Before, they couldn't even get out of the first stage in their minds. So I think it's that mix of, okay, we have a celebrity that passed, and we had a complete no-name. It still took out it took 2 former champions out back to back. But you still had somebody that won that course.
Heck, 2 All-Stars failed the first obstacle.
And that's my WTF category. Because seriously, you should have heard I don't even think that the cameras and the microphones caught the "you've got to be kidding me." Where I was sitting, because I was not sitting in the stands, you just had a roar of laughter with Shingo, and then with Takada was Majide. It was hilarious. Like, wait, what? Like, they expected Shingo to derp, which is really bad if you really think about it. They expected him to do something phenomenally stupid. But to see Takada duplicate it was just, wait, what just happened? And I even heard people that was like, oh, they're tanking. It's like, no! That is what happens when cockiness comes in, because that's what happened to Takada. Takada's like, no, there's no way. I'm sure I can do this. I've done this before.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you think it's just because they done Rapid Descent before?
Yes. I am positive. Anybody that's failed the way with them, because the reason why Shingo jumped at all is because that is how he did the obstacle in Sasuke. Yeah. He's done this. I know this obstacle. Boom! Apparently I don't know this obstacle. And then Takada's, no, wait, I can do it. Wait, what?
And then Drew, who's just immediately after them, is like, no, wait,
yes!
I can do this. And then he does.
Yeah.
Barely, but he does it.
If it wasn't because he trains that way, that would have been 3 back-to-back. Ultimately, it's just like, if nothing else, it gave me, like, the best faces for Shingo and Takada. Like, I'm probably gonna have, like, 6 screenshots of the WTF that came out of their faces going, you mean I could have done that? And of course, I'm thinking, you're both now over 40 years old. No. You're never gonna do that again. Now, if they train for it that way, but, and then I already know, I'm under no illusions that they will ever be champions. Even Nagano. I love him to death. I will always be a Nagano fan. I do not have him in the final. However, I think he can still get to the 3rd stage.
I think all
that's mine. He has to want it, and right now he doesn't. He doesn't want it. So, but that's an entirely different show, and we'll talk about that forever, and we'll find out next year if he comes back.
Yeah.
If not, I got a picture of him.
So I'll just say this one last thing that I would say wraps up my overall feelings of the finale of the show.
Yeah.
And that is that they say when it comes to competition that you're at your best when you are having fun with what you do.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
It's really nice to see someone who is a super fan of the show, who had childhood aspirations of competing on it and one day being a champion.
Yeah.
Being able to work hard, work smartly, and even though it took him many years, he was at what is by all means a young age of 23.
Yeah, he is the youngest champion ever.
He was able to accomplish his childhood goal.
He hasn't even hit his peak yet. No. Think about that. Yeah. You know, males hit their peak, anywhere between 28 through 35.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even hit his peak. I mean, we can have, basically, again, another Nagano where you have, back-to-back finals.
Yeah.
I can't wait! I really hoped that the ratings were good enough to come back, because everybody said, well, what if this is the last one, and somebody wins, that'd be great. I'm thinking, no. I want to see Morimoto standing in the start line of Sasuke 32 being introduced as a grand champion. I want that. Even if the 32 is the last one ever, I want that opportunity. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah. There was also a lot of people that left 31 with huge regret. I want to see them all come back with a vengeance, because I think 32 is probably going to be the best tournament. I'm praying it's the best tournament, because you had half of the top 10 couldn't even get out of the first stage. I mean, they're going to come back with an absolute vengeance. I'm hoping also it includes the All-Stars, because I will always be, to the end of time, once an All-Star fan, always an All-Star fan. Just like, I want them to come back and just totally destroy the course. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Or at least if it has changed where everybody's eliminated, although nobody wants a 19 again. Yeah. But still, oh God, I want to see that again. That is something I wish was open to more people and international people. And every A&W person that has ever competed in Japan can say the same thing. You have to see it. That is just that is an experience. It's an exhausting experience, but it is unlike any other thing I've seen in my lifetime. I think it's a wonderful spectacle. It's still a television show. It will always be just a television show to me. I don't see it as a sporting event. It has sporting elements in it, but it is still ultimately a television show, and you're keenly aware it's a television show. But man, it's an awesome television show.
It's just a very inspiring story.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like dreams can come true.
Yeah. And the theme was back to basics, and they're right, because it's back to the pure love of this show. And it was the best embodied by the current champion, as he is basically Sasuke incarnate. It's just it's what this show was meant to be, and somehow got lost in the middle. And hopefully this is a sign that it's back, because he's like the best representative for it. Well, there's plenty of space in the top for others, but this is I am just so happy he won. It would have been great to have him and Tomo up there. That's just me being but
it's a little selfish at that point. Come on.
Yeah. Well, they said it was selfish for me to pray for Kansa and say hi, and it happened.
Well, now you want two.
Which is why TBS was with this totally irk face going, no, I don't think you grasp the gravity of the situation. This was told to me in English, by the way. I don't think you grasp the gravity of the situation. I am extremely envious of you right now. You are extremely lucky, and I don't even believe that you realize how lucky you are. And I said, I know. I said, no, you don't. I've been here 23 straight times. I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry. That was hilarious. So, but yeah, and I'll write more on hopefully. I have a lot on my plate, so all of July and probably most of August is just going to be catching up on all those things between that and sending videos out on my YouTube channel of the trip, which happened now 2 months ago. But yeah. I'll be talking about this for a while. So if you haven't missed much, I haven't posted most stuff, and but yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And, we'll have more to talk about next month because there's a lot of things we can cover, especially obstacle stuff.
Yeah.
But for now,
Yeah.
I think it might be a good time to say thank you everyone for listening to the Final Stage podcast. If you would like to contact me, you can find me at 222productions.com, 2-2.com, or on Twitter at 2D2will. And for you?
And I can always be followed on Twitter and on YouTube. Both of them are Arsenette, ARSENETTE. And my blog, ramblingregan.blogspot.com.
All right. And so once again, thank you everyone for listening. And tune in next month with our detailed review of X-Warrior. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh my god.
I may be serious.